Punne, Chief Marketing Officer at Driver Logistics. I'm delighted to welcome you to this session of the Driver Logistics Knowledge Series. This initiative is aimed at fostering awareness about new developments and transformative trends in logistics and supply chain management. Today's focus is on emerging technologies in logistics and supply chains, a topic that's reshaping industries globally, from AI and IoT to blockchain and robotics. These innovations are unlocking unprecedented efficiency and transparency in logistics operations. We are privileged to have with us three esteemed panelists who are leaders in this space. Naveen Shivshankar, a technology architect from driving digital innovations at DHL. He has been he has over 25 years of experience in some groundbreaking work in predictive modeling and automation. Good morning to you, Naveen.
Good morning, Pradeep. Thanks a lot for this opportunity. Really excited. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Ashwin Mohan, a seasoned supply chain expert. He has over 20 years of experience in leading transformative projects. He has worked with Amazon and Target and worked extensively in the US. He also has a patent in his own name in robotic solutions. Good morning, Ashwin. I think his connection is broken. And our third panelist, Pranavan. He's a visionary entrepreneur and CEO of Controlone.ai, pioneering advancements in robotics and automations. Pranavan is also a National Entrepreneurship Award winner. He has other different startups that he's heading. He's quite a visionary in that sense. I don't know if Ashwin has joined us again.
I think it's joined.
Ashwin, we had introduced you. I'll just read out a brief introduction about Ashwin. I think you had.
Sorry, I think I had some technical difficulties here in Dubai. Yes, sorry about that.
No problem. So Ashwin, as I mentioned, was a seasoned supply chain expert who has led transformative projects in Amazon and Target. He has over 20 years of experience, and he also owns patented robotic solutions. Morning, Ashwin. Morning. Pranavan. Morning, Naveen, and morning to all our attendees here today.
Good morning, everyone.
Together, our panelists bring invaluable insights on how technologies are shaping the future of supply chains. Let's start the webinar. I begin with my first section on artificial intelligence and machine learning in supply chain. I put my first question to Naveen Shivshankar. You have been working extensively with predictive modeling at DHL. Can you describe the recent advancements in predictive analytics for demand forecasting and whether AI-driven inventory optimization is improving supply chain efficiency?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you, Pradeep. Thank you so much. So let me start with a keyword, for each of these sections, right? So the keyword that I generally prefer to use for artificial intelligence is accuracy, right? It's a very hotly debated topic on why accuracy, right? So because the fundamental definition of accuracy has changed a lot, right? With rule-based programming, we used to have 100% accuracy, right? But with artificial intelligence systems, the very concept of an accuracy now, if I get an accuracy of 80%, right, I'm really happy for my AI system, right? So having said that, just a bit of introduction about AI in general for the attendees, right? I generally have a conversation with any team for which we are implementing an AI solution. So I go to them and I tell them this. What do you want? Do you want automation or do you want cognitive process automation, right? As in, do you want intelligence along with your automation, right? And I give them a clear cut methodology to determine what their answer should be. So I ask them to draw the process workflow, on a document, and then I ask them to put all the decision boxes, and then I ask them one fundamental question. Can you frame all the rules for each of these decision boxes within a single slide, right? So if the answer is yes, we go for process automation. If the answer is no, we switch over to the so-called artificial intelligence and machine learning and whatnot, right? And there's also another difference that people need to think about. These on-the-floor operations. You have these autonomous robots that are going on the floor, and then we also have this back office operations, right? Trust me, artificial intelligence has a huge role to play in both these parts. Especially, I'm involved a lot in the back office operations. So we have scanning solutions, we have process automation robots. All of these vendors are coming up with so much of artificial intelligence technologies, right? They are including artificial intelligence for decision making, right? Primarily. If you look at scanning solutions, right? So we have a lot of documentation that we deal with on a daily basis. But it's very, very important to note that processing each and every documentation has its own set of challenges with different templates, and each supplier can come with their own way of generating an invoice and all that. So the idea is that to make sure that we have these artificial intelligence incorporated within that, so that you do not have to create a template for each and every invoice that you're trying to extract, right? And what has happened in the last few years is that there's been a lot of improvement in these technologies, right? Previously, how it used to happen was, let's take an example of an inventory optimization, right? Now, you have multiple sales data, you get that data, you process each day's worth of sales data, and then you feed it into a program. The program starts churning it out. And then after a day's worth of processing, you finally have an output, which can then be used to predict the future. Now, what has changed significantly here is that now we have the ability to make real-time adjustments, right? And that is a very significant, exciting advancement. What has happened is that now, for example, we had worked on this wonderful project called, ETA prediction for ocean freight, right? So the idea is that once we know from which station or from which port a ship had started its journey, right? And then we can predict within a couple of days of accuracy as to when that particular ship would reach the destination port, right? And what happened during the midst of the project, right? We also had a collaboration with a system called AIS, which was starting to give us real-time GPS coordinates of the vessels as well, right? And then making use of past historical data, we were able to readjust our predictions so that we were able to accurately determine what would be the time when the vessel would reach the destination, right? And when you talk about artificial intelligence, you cannot talk about it in isolation, right? You have to talk about other technologies. For example, the ability to the fantastic algorithms that have come up in the recent time, which enables us to do the data processing. And then we have to talk about the scalable infrastructure, right? Made possible by all the SaaS solutions that have come on board, right? IoT integration makes a very important part here because you need those tools, every asset to send back information, because only using that information we can feed it back into the system and then make sure that we have our predictions, right? And there's also this thing about databases which have become extremely fast nowadays, so it helps us to crunch data very faster and churn out answers as well, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, I'm really surprised. I see that there is a lot of developments happening in AI and the machine, whatever the AI-driven optimization of supply chain, especially the example that you gave us about the ship leaving someplace, and you're able to identify exactly what time it will be coming to some port. Interesting. Could I just bring in Pranavan and Ashwin here? Yeah. From an automation perspective, what role does machine learning play in route optimization, and how can these systems be applied to warehouse automation? Pranavan, would you like to take it? And Ashwin, maybe you can add something about how Gen AI is impacting supply chain and logistics.
Sure. I'll go ahead, Pradeep. So thanks for the question. So yeah, as Naveen was also mentioning, see today, AI and machine learning is has become a new breed of machine understanding of the environment. And today, the computing has become different. So earlier, rightly as Naveen also mentioned, we need to hard code each and every position, command, and navigation sequence. today, today's processors are able to do inferencing on edge. This means you can do AI applications on edge, and this will make the machines more intelligent. This means you don't need to code for every sequence. Once you train using LLMs, if you train, hey, this is the path, this is the way you can go, this is where you can turn, and this is how you can turn, the machine will be able to generate its own waypoints. This is a huge breakthrough in the field of robotics, and especially in warehouse automation, because for decades, this has been a major killer of scale in the field of automation, especially robotics, because in warehouses, things are not placed or kept in the way it is supposed to be due to the demand in the supply or the transit based on the traffic condition. The warehouse doesn't occupy material in a planned manner. There is always deviation. This means the material has to be placed in different places than it is planned to. And when this happens, robots suffer to work in these kind of dynamic environments. Over here, when we apply AI and machine learning, the machine understands by seeing or by through different other sensors, it understands, okay, there is a small deviation in the path, so I have to take a different path now, which was not possible earlier with the previous generation of pre-programmed robots, I would say. And this drastically reduces edge cases, and this opens up a new world for robotics to penetrate deeper into the market. Because earlier, in the pre-programmed way, there is no much difference between a conveyor belt and a robot, because conveyor belt moves material from point A to point B. And robots also does the same thing. And if there is any deviation on the path, or if there's any edge cases, the robot doesn't know exactly what to do. And that's the same thing for a conveyor belt as such. But today, with AI machine learning, the machines are able to understand the scenario and take a call on the edge on that particular scenario.
They're able to learn as they go along.
Exactly. And the best part is not just learning on over there. Thanks to the large language models, there are many vision models available there, many navigation models available there. There are crowdsourced data available, which has been trained over and over and again, and not just by seeing things here or sensing things on the field. With the previous experience of other data available in the web, the machines are able to understand the scenario and take a decision. So this culminatively make the robot much more brilliant as well as capable, drastically reducing the edge case. And technically, because see, technically, you cannot code for every instances. Like someone has a water bottle on the way, the robot doesn't know what it is. And based on the sensors, certain sensors will be able to detect a water bottle, glass water bottle. Certain sensors won't be able to detect a glass water bottle. So how does a machine react to these things? Now, the AI has helped in the sensing also, not just on the navigation part, in the sensing also. Cumulatively, it helps a robot to handle any kind of scenarios on the edge and make automation feasible, I would say. Like how today human operators or human workers do a task in a warehouse. Today, robots are coming there. I mean, I won't say, hey, they have achieved 100% of human efficiency or human processing capability, but they're slowly coming there. Probably today, they're at 15 to 20%. But in the next 2 years, we can see a huge shift, increase in robot intelligence, perception systems, sensing systems, and navigation systems. And this will help robots to penetrate deeper into the market. And it is all coming from the background that the navigation systems has become better due to AI because of the back-end learning as well as global learning system, large language models, as well as the perception system. So you ask how it has improved navigation.
Yeah.
Of course, AI has improved, but the ultimate outcome that is coming is robots can work at scale now. Many companies can adopt robotics easier now.
Okay, thanks so much. Thanks, Pranav. Ashwin, anything you would like to add on Gen AI and how it's
I'll just add a little bit of flavor to what Pranav said. And one of the warehouses that I was working, the machine learning was actually an important component of routing. As we talk about autonomous vehicles, there are all these columns and pillars in the warehouses, and there is no way for you to actually detect those because you preload those maps in the warehouse to the system, and the robot actually takes the path from one point to another point. You suddenly have a column or a pillar, right? So it has to figure out what is the best alternative route to get to that point. And that's been one of the biggest learnings that I've personally had with ML on the warehousing side of things. So I'll just keep that brief. And then from a Gen AI standpoint, I think it's a technology that it's a hot button technology, and where everyone is trying to figure out how best to use it. Couple of use cases in warehouses that I've seen is you have a lot of information that's embedded in manual files and automated files. How to actually retrieve this information, right? I mean, in a more efficient way. There is partners that are working on warehousing concepts. If they actually want to get some information, earlier it used to be that they have to open a link and get their exact information. Gen AI has made it really easy to actually get the information in fraction of a second in what they're actually been used to. So that's been the biggest advantage I've seen with Gen AI, but still to prove, I think it's an early technology and supply chain. There is a lot more things to actually do before it gets operational, in my view.
Yeah, true. I mean, Gen AI is a hot topic, and I think there's a lot we want to see. We'll have to wait and see how it's applied in different areas, not just supply chain and logistics. I'll move on to my next topic, which is the Internet of Things and supply chain visibility. Naveen, how do you see IoT impacting real-time tracking and warehouse management? How do you see that happening? How do you see IoT impacting tracking and warehouse management?
Yeah, Pradeep, thank you. So, like I had the keyword accuracy for AI, right? Similarly, the keyword for this is transparency, right? Now, all the big shipping corporations, they struggle with this, right? So, while most of them claim that they have real-time visibility, not many of them have actually been able to do it. And one of the key components is that, let's say you have a cargo being shipped from one port to another, and then it's on the high seas, and then you have absolutely no idea whether the ship made it or not, right? Now, enter IoT, right? So what is IoT? It's basically, you're thinking about a network of physical objects, right? All of which are connected to the internet so that they can communicate with each other, right? Now, typical examples would be, enhanced asset tracking, right? So and especially real-time tracking. That is what is really tough nowadays, right? And if you look at it, we also, for example, some of these assets, right? For example, especially the temperature controlled assets, we really need to know whether they are being maintained in a proper condition or not, right? And then if you have in the high seas or when it's being transported, let's say we hit a snag, something happens, right? And then these need to be rerouted. So even for dynamic routing, right, this is very, very critical for us, right? And the same thing can be applied in the context of a warehouse as well, correct? Now, something that I wanted to give an example, I'll probably post the case study as well in the chat window. So if you take Maersk, right, so they came up with this, so they had a lot of problems, in terms of tracking, in terms of inefficient operations. And then they came up with this system, which is called, it's an RCM platform, or in other words, it's a remote container management platform. And it's named as Captain Peter, right? And using this, what they have done is that they have invested massively in terms of enabling these IoT devices. And the best part about it is that now you have IoT enabled containers, which are giving you real-time updates of where exactly is the position, what is the condition of a container, and so forth. So all this is being fed back into a system which is able to alert people if something goes wrong. It's helping operations, it's helping the customer, because customer now has a wonderful experience in terms of a 24/7 view of their cargoes, right? And also another beautiful use case is that they've also used this for fuel optimization, right? So they've looked at things like, what is the speed, what is the engine performance, what are the weather conditions. Now all of these is being fed back. Advanced analytics is being run on top of that. And so operations are becoming obviously better, right? With a use case, sorry.
No, please go ahead. If it would be great if you could put that case that you mentioned, case study that you mentioned in the chat.
I'll send it across. So, and within DHL, a couple of things that I wanted to mention. Two things key for us. One is called as a system called as Raptor, So it's basically a routing optimization software that we have designed. So this helps in optimization of the daily pickup and deliveries, right? So you with logistics, you have a lot of containers being transported, right, through trucks and whatnot, right? So every time somebody has to come in, they have to pick up the cargo and they have to deliver it at a specific spot and all that, right? Now, normally what happens is that somebody prepares a daily route for them, which can be manual and based on prior experience, right? Enter machine learning and artificial intelligence, enter IoT as well. So now you have constant tracking. All that is fed back into the system. The system is able to predict what should be the route, how much do we pack each of these containers in, so that operations are very efficient. And my personal favorite is something called as geocoding, right? Now, what has happened is that whenever our courier guys, they deliver it in large hospitals or large establishments, right? What happens is that the places where the people come in is not the place where the person actually delivers the cargo, right? So there's a significant difference of location, especially considering large establishments. So what they have done is that they have given each of these cargo guys, IoT-enabled device, wherein when they deliver something at a specific spot, they make sure that they enter in the details so that we pick up the exact location of that, right? This is being fed back into a system, so which means that subsequent deliveries will become faster, efficient, and also more accurate. Right? No more do we have people going and waiting in front of an hospital trying to figure out which gate they have to enter. Everything is being fed into the system, and that automatically ensures that the operations become much more efficient.
Very interesting. Interesting, this case that you said about the hospital. I can imagine how it be. Ashwin, could I put my next question to you? In large-scale operations, how does IoT improve operational efficiency in distribution centers and fulfillment nodes?
Yeah, so in a warehouse operation, and especially in large-scale operations, so like if you think about regional distribution center or upstream distribution center, one of the main use cases for the IoTs that I've worked on is within asset management, because you have a lot of equipments and a lot of material handling carts, starting from order pickers to forklift to even carts that associate actually take around to pick items, right? And at some point, it actually grows and grows, and you have no idea how many equipments you have in your system. And a lot of them are not utilized in the right manner. So one of the projects that we've actually worked on is to embed what you call a BLE beacon. BLE stands for Bluetooth Low Energy. So you actually put it onto those equipments, and then it actually then, because by virtue of being low energy, you can put it on there, and then it'll actually operate for without charging or without replacing for long periods of time. I mean, like, weeks and months. So you don't have to worry about the battery being gone within weeks time or months time. So it actually is there for like 3-4 months, and you're able to then see how your assets are moving, and you can actually track your assets to understand if they are operational in the way it's supposed to be. And this is one of the biggest utilizations we've actually seen with IoT adoption in warehouses. And I think this is one area where a lot of warehouses are experimenting right now with IoTs, but very few warehouses have actually implemented this in a more effective manner, I would say.
Great, thanks. We'll move on now to the next topic, which is blockchain and supply chain transparency. Naveen, what potential does blockchain hold for improving product traceability? Are there any areas in logistics where it can detect fraud or reduce fraud effectively? Blockchain in supply chain, the product traceability. I think they're on mute. Yeah, that's okay.
So continuing with the trend, right? So the keyword that I have for this one is security, right? And there's a reason for that. See, blockchain was primarily invented for financial transactions, cryptocurrencies, and whatnot, right? But then slowly people started realizing, right? So here we have the concept of something called as a distributed ledger, right? And people found that the transactions can be really secure once you start recording them on blockchain technologies, right? Now, the thing is that, with logistics, right, especially because you have a lot of goods being shipped from one point to another, right? How do you ensure that what is being said is actually being done, right? That is the question that had people going for this blockchain technology. Because whatever gets added to this ledger, it becomes immutable. In other words, nobody can change it once it has been approved and signed off, right? So classic example is, if you take the example of a food industry, from farm to table, right? Each and every transaction is being recorded, right? And that is very, very important. So this can be achieved with the use of blockchains. For example, if you take the pharma industry, right? There's a lot of discussion about counterfeit drugs in the market, right? Now, when you have a list of stakeholders and when all of them have signed on to the platform, you can ensure that the drugs are being sourced from legitimate sources, right? So once again, it's all about the security part of it, right? There are some additional benefits, like, for example, once you have all these stakeholders in place, right? Documentation or contracts, all that can be generated on the fly, right, using the blockchain platform itself, right? Now, also from a perspective of logistics, another important thing is cargo theft, right? So because blockchain would help to make sure that you have the real-time tracking and the verification of the cargo as well. So it's not easy for cargo theft to happen once we are onloaded into the blockchain technology, right? And an example that I wanted to quote on this is that Walmart successfully had a partnership with IBM, and a product that was developed was called as the IBM Footrest. I'll send more details on this one. So what they basically did is that they used the I think it was Hyperledger platform, if I'm correct. So that is the blockchain platform that they used. And then they started having a ledger, and they started recording all the transactions, right? So what happens is that suppliers onboard all the data about their products into the blockchain platform. And at each stage of the supply chain, right, that is from farm to the store, each transaction is being recorded. So this ensures that, processors, farmers, distributors, retailers all have a real-time view. And they know that once it is there, it is final, right? So you can have a long history of every single transaction that went into it, right? But however, on the other hand, blockchain also has its huge share of problems, which we can probably discuss later.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up actually. I would like Pranavan and Ashwin also to pitch in on this. What are the challenges that companies face when implementing blockchain in supply chain? Anything that you're aware of? Anything that you would like to add? This is exactly what Naveen was talking about now, the problems that companies face in implementing blockchain. Actually, any of you, all three of you, anybody who would like to bring in this about the problems that companies face?
Sure, maybe there was
I would say, go ahead.
No, you proceed.
Yeah, I would say, at least from what I've seen, it's in a very infant stage. We have to understand the security implications and what is the ROI that the blockchain technology adoption will bring to the warehouse operations and in the larger logistical landscape. There are a lot of use cases that we talk about with any technology. Just like blockchain also, we have to figure out what is the right ROI. I think more than from an efficiency standpoint, that may not be the best metric. It might be more about security and privacy concerns within supply chain.
So the cost of adoption, infrastructure, and what merits it's going to bring for this adoption are the key, decision makers here. So see, not all industries would see merit in this because they're fine with the systems that they have and it's working so far. Keeping it simple. So on the security side, because in blockchain, the security is a key component. It's hard to breach and the accuracy is really high. And if you see in many industries, they don't need that kind of security for certain aspects. And they need accuracy. It doesn't mean that they need a higher accuracy at a cost of something or cost of adoption. So many industries tend to stay the way they are performing because they're happy with the solution that they do have. Because our softwares today, the software that's in the market, there's different SaaS softwares, the applications that's in the market is pretty much enabled with enough security features, and they're happy with it. So a customer would move to a new technology only if the pain point is real and big enough, and it's a must-have product.
Yeah.
Blockchain haven't reached that stage, I would say, for certain industries.
What Ashwin mentioned about ROI, I think more or less the same thing. Naveen, you wanted to add something? You had.
Yeah, just a couple of points, Pradeep. So one was that Gartner had published a report way back in 2019, right? At the time, they predicted that 90% of the blockchain projects launched in 2015 would go obsolete by 2023, right? And I can say that with confidence because even DHL had a partnership with Maersk and IBM to develop a blockchain platform, right? And then the idea was to have a blockchain-enabled shipping solution, right? But in Q1 of 2023, it was decided that it didn't reach the level of commercial viability. So it was dropped at that point in time.
I think like all of you said, I think it depends from case to case. It's not something that fits in with every logistics operation or every company that is there. I'll move on to my
certification industry is heavily adopted, heavily adopted blockchain because the certification authenticity is needed. Any certified product or certification, right from a course, a simple technical course for product certification. Blockchain has been adopted greatly in these industry because that needs authenticity. So it depends industry to industry.
Correct. Yes. I'll move on to robotics and automation in warehousing. Pranavan, as founder of Controlone.ai, could you share some insights on how autonomous mobile robots are transforming order fulfillment?
Oh, okay. Large question. So I will be talking throughout the day about this then.
If you can talk in brief, we got a lot of other topics to go through. So as brief as you can, please.
Absolutely. I'll keep it crisp. So the first thing, see, today's logistics industries has drastically transformed from what is 6 to 7 years back. Today, the entire supply chain logistics has changed drastically because the customer demands has changed. Today 10 minutes grocery, 10 minutes, delivery is possible. We did not expect this earlier. I mean, we used to order in a shop, the guy will be coming and delivering weekly once or the next day morning. Then if we move to Amazon, they said Prime, you order in the morning, next day or maximum the same day you might get delivered. Today 10 minutes, and we are getting adopted to this. I'm hooked onto that now. If I need anything, I just order. It comes immediately. Today this kind of optimizations and supply chain optimizations especially is making people to adapt to it also because of the comfort. I mean, I order something, I'll get it within the next 10 minutes because if it is Amazon, I need to wait for the next day. I'll be at office. The delivery guy will be calling and telling, hey, I'm at your doorstep. Can you open up or, can you do something about it? I have to call my neighbor. So all those things are there. So every industry today is optimizing on the supply chain and they need accuracy and predictability, I would say. And only robots can bring this into the market. Because the moment we involve human, we have to expect certain level of inaccuracies there because humans tend to make mistake and they cannot work like a computer. It's really hard because, again, if you look even into the warehouse environment, it's pretty harsh environment to work with. And at times people misplace materials too. Though there are WMS systems, there are systems to place the material precisely. There are human errors that's happening, which creates a chaos during the supply chain. So robotics is a solution to increase the accuracy and predictability, I would say. But here also comes the challenge of the adoption. The first question that you asked about, how much is the adoption possible and how much the robotic systems are able to adapt to the current systems that's prevailing in the market. Because today's system is predominantly designed for human-based material movement. The moment you bring a machine into it, certain things goes without accounting, I would say, because as a human, we expect if there is something on the pathway or if the floor is broken or if the material is protruding out of the pallet, or there is a material over the pallet which is unsecured, we expect the human can see to it and see how it can be transported neatly. So these conditions, these are few things which a robot cannot do. If it cannot simply hold a material while moving, while falling, it cannot hold a material or catch material. So the system is designed for humans, and that change to transform toward robot first approach will take some time. But that transformation is happening. So if you ask the question, how it will change, it will provide all the necessary things that a supply chain or a logistics industry needs: accuracy, predictability, and on-time material movement. But adoption will be slow only because there is an existing system in place. The warehouse, the WMS, the softwares, everything is designed for human-based movement. So robotic system will take its own time to come into a full-fledged play, but that will slowly happen.
Sure, thanks. Ashwin, you have worked extensively with robotic order picking. You had also mentioned about it earlier. How do you see collaborative robots, which is cobots, enhancing efficiency in warehouse operations?
Yeah, so I like the phrasing of that, Pradeep. You said, how does it enhance the efficiency of the warehouse operations, right? I mean, and that is a big word right there. When people talk about automation and robotics, right? I mean, everyone thinks that there is going to be a higher efficiency if you use that. Now, that might not always be true, because in my experience, I've seen a lot of these robotic solutions come into play and then get shut down within 1 to 2 years because they've not given the right ROI or the efficiency. Now, taking a step back, right? I mean, with the whole collaborative robots, which is robots defined as things that can actually work alongside humans, right? I think the first step that we need to understand is how is your operations running at this current point, right? What stage is your operations? And if your operations is not streamlined, it's not optimized, then implementing an automation doesn't really do a lot of good, because you have to actually go into some capability maturity before you can actually implement any of this automation. And that is the point one. Always advocate that you want to actually go from performing to managing to improving to optimizing, and finally comes automation, right? I mean, you can't skip all these steps and go directly to automation. That is point number one. And the second point in cobots is that, yes, it actually works around humans and it works safely around humans, right? But the key point is that that does not mean that humans can actually work around these bots in uninhibited fashion. Because if that happens, then what will happen is these bots will bump into the humans, and then the efficiency actually degrades. So even in that instance, you need to have the humans move around the warehouse in structured way. They can't just be going around, because then they'll, like I said, bump into bots to make a crowding effect, and then the efficiency actually reduces. So that's point number two. And then the use case I wanted to actually finish off is that in some of the warehouses, especially in the US, the labor scarcity is really big. I mean, they have a big challenge to fill labor in a successful way, and that is where these cobots actually come in. So, for example, if you actually need about 50 associates to pick an order, there are cobots called Locus Robotics and Fetch Robotics that can be implemented. It's called Pick Assist AMR. PAAMR is what it's called. And then the associate can actually go and then pick items and put it into the cobots. They'll transport that units back to the pack station. And for example, if you wanted 50 associates to do the picking, you can do that with 10 associates and 40 bots. Now, the question is it gives you a nice ROI? And the key metric here is cost per unit. I mean, eventually, what is the CPU that you get out of deploying these bots?
Great, thanks. I'll move on to my next topic, which is about advanced analytics. Naveen, you have worked with predictive models. How can big data be used for supply chain optimization, especially predictive maintenance?
Yeah, so we are coming to that part of this webinar where most of these topics now start to overlap with each other, Pradeep. So
yes, that's right.
So the keyword once again for this one is insights, right? So As per one of the surveys, right, unplanned downtime, were costed industrial manufacturers almost close to 15 hours a week and almost $50 billion a year, right? So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about, right? And equipment failure was being cited as one of the most important causes for almost 50% of these downtimes, right? Now, so predictive maintenance really, really important rather than doing reactive maintenance. And how do we do this? We need big data. Why big data, right? Now, we have always had data, but what is happening is that, especially with the introduction of things like IoT, right? Each and every device out there almost has a life on its own. So it's able to communicate back, right? It is able to tell about what is the current position, what is the status that it is in, how is it functioning. A lot of details are being sent back into this one centralized platform that we have, right? So for big data to happen successfully, it is very important for us to understand how do we collect all this data, right? How do we integrate with multiple systems, right? Integration is a nightmare, especially for back office operations, right? So we any logistics company, right, when it starts off, they start including these tools one by one, right? All of a sudden you realize that you have some 400 unique tools that are being used in the organization, right? Well, the tools are unique, right? If you classify them based on the purpose that they serve, it's only about some 5 or 6 categories, but you still end up with 400 odd tools. So what happens is that you then go into a giant mechanism where you start this process that you start, wherein you try to trim down on all this, you try to standardize your process, right? So that's a big thing about big data. And the other point that I wanted to mention was how do we solve this whole big data problem, right? And especially from a predictive maintenance perspective. I'll just mention this one thing about digital twins. I'm not going into those because I know that we have a topic coming up. But digital twins is one of the most biggest thing when it comes to predictive maintenance, right? But the other thing that has really come up over the last few years is audio AI, right? Audio artificial intelligence. Now, what happens is that, as part of this audio AI, we are now have the capability to analyze, synthesize, and understand audio signals, right? Two main things. One is from the perspective of all these, automated machines that are out there, and also assets, spare parts, everything included, right? So we are now getting audio signals, which are now starting to understand how is the system functioning, right? And then audio AI can also be used in order to understand how are the human beings state of affairs currently, right? For example, a truck driver, right, who wants to make a very long journey. So there is this checkup that is being done wherein an operator calls up this truck driver and talks with them, right? And the audio signals from his voice or her voice is being fed back into a system, which is able to predict whether this person is in the right state of mind in order to do the entire journey, right? So that is where so using all these signals and being fed back into the system, we are able to crunch big data, and then we are able to make sure that we are doing a predictive maintenance rather than a reactive maintenance.
Right. Thank you. Also, Pranavan, you had already mentioned, I think, briefly about data-driven decision making in warehouse automation. How does it improve efficiency and reduce downtime?
Well, it goes on different stages. For example, the data, as I think Ashin also mentioned about this, right from predictive maintenance to ensure great uptime and ensuring a particular material's positional accuracy. For example, in today's warehouse, one of the biggest problem that the warehouse industry is trying to solve is your WMS shows a particular material is in particular place, or the particular material has this much of inventory. And in real world, it doesn't exist that way. There'll be a slight change. This creates it creates a problem on the planning part. If, for example, if it is an automotive industry, if the necessary parts are not available for the feeding line, your entire production for the day goes for a toss. In these places, data play a very great role, and especially in prediction part. data play a very great big role, and big data again comes into action here. Right from your machines predictability, the lines predictability, everything can be predicted as a model, and you can plan things basically on it. So if you ask how it is improving efficiency, I would say without these models, in today's world, the efficiency cannot be achieved, I would say. Rather than seeing it as, how much is improving, I would see without this, what happens? It's literally impossible to plan things, because today, as you know, again, warehousing industry, supply chain, retail industry works on a very thin margins. If the data isn't accurate, it's really hard to survive in this field, I would say. So data is everything, and the predictive models based on the data is a key element for success, I would say.
Sort of like mandatory.
It's mandatory, not even a consideration. It's needed, else things are done, because each and every material cost, and not just the material cost, the time lost due to the missed part or missed box or missed inventory is huge. The opportunity cost is huge. So we can't afford to lose data here or maintain a non-accurate data here.
Can I go on to my next topic, which is about digital twins, which Naveen had just mentioned a little while back. Ashwin, my question is to you: How do digital twins? How are they applied to fulfillment nodes and distribution centers? And what challenges do you think organizations have when they try to implement it to digital twins?
Sure, yeah. So digital twins, I would say, we are actually hearing a lot about digital twins lately, but it's been around for a long time in some shape or form, right? I mean, simulation is a part of digital twin, but if you think about the actual definition of a digital twin, it's a virtual replica of a physical system or entity, right? And idea is that you are able to actually create a digital representation of a physical system, so you can actually run simulations and you can actually feed the data back and forth to make some smart predictions about how your warehouse will perform. And one of the ways that I've seen this used in an effective manner is that, let's say you have some of these orders coming into a warehouse, right? I mean, it's more along the lines of risk assessment. Now, how do you actually assess the risk within your warehouse? So if you have a peak planning period, or if you have a surge in volume, you actually know about this beforehand, and you feed all this data into a digital replica of a warehouse, and you see these orders coming in beforehand. You can then run a model based on past data and actual orders. And this is actually the most important component, is that simulation takes a lot of times dummy data, but digital twin actually has actual data going back and forth. And you can exactly see how the orders are coming in. And you run that simulation within the warehouse, you can see hotspots of where your efficiency is going to take a hit, because you might actually have some inventory taken from the same exact aisle multiple times, right? Or the same exact time. And so seeing that you have those bottlenecks or those hotspots within the warehouse can then tell you how exactly should you react when this actually happens on the ground. So you could actually release those batches in a more efficient manner, or you can reallocate the orders to a different node. So that's the kind of visibility that you actually get by deploying something like a digital twin. And to touch on the last part, which is challenges, I think right now it's all about supply chain visibility. I mean, from what pandemic has shown, these disruptions can actually happen anytime, right? I mean, there is not a calm before the storm stage where you have all the time to prepare for disruption. So the more you integrate your systems, the more you digitalize your systems, and the more you automate your systems, it becomes easy for you to react to those events. I mean, if those are in silos and if they are all in separate modules, which doesn't talk to each other, it becomes that hard for you to understand what is going on, and then maybe even react to some of the disruption that actually comes suddenly.
Sure. I'll leave this. Put this question to both Pranavan and Naveen. How are digital twins optimizing operations in, let's say, high volume logistics settings? When the volumes are huge, how do digital twins help? Pranavan, Naveen, if you would like to add some points.
Well, you're asking specific on high volume movement.
Yes. high volume logistics settings. How do digital twins help there?
Well, again, visualization is a key thing. Visualization, and again, digital twin, predominantly many industries are today using it for, even we are providing solutions on digital twin part, basically on planning and prediction too. If the material movement happens this way, what would happen? What are the different ways we can efficiently move metal and make a better utilization of every square feet in a warehouse? Because today, the cost per shipment is really important for any industry, any 3PL industry. The cost per shipment is a key element. And heavy optimization is needed there. And in this particular metric, cost per shipment, digital twin can help big time, specifically in planning and routing the parcels or the shipment materials in a certain manner. Experts use digital twin to simulate various ways of material movement, one. And second thing, as Ashwin also mentioned, which inventory is where, what is the accuracy of this inventory? And again, robotic systems are again used to keep updating these digital twin too. For example, there is a company called Dexery Robotics. The primary job is to ensure every night it scans through the entire inventory shelves and keep updating everything on the digital twin, so that the digital twin data as well as the real data is exactly a match. This helps you to plan the entire week, day, or the entire shipment, I would say. So again, it also boils down to the fact that better efficiency of cost per square feet and cost per shipment. Your digital twin is a next step or next advancements in the predictive planning, as well as the maintaining and movement of material, I would say.
Anything you would like to add, Naveen? Anything on digital twins?
Just a couple of small points. When it comes to digital twins, right, it started with parts, we moved on to assets, then we started with the systems, and then we went on to the processes, and then we went on to whole supply chains itself. Right? So we are trying to create digital twins of the overall supply chain process itself, so that we can simulate that and then find out if there is anything that needs maintenance, right? On the other hand, just to give an example, the company Kraft Heinz, right? So they had partnered with Microsoft. So they had these 34 manufacturing sites across North America. And then they wanted to create digital, they've created actually digital twins for all those manufacturing sites. The primary objective being that they wanted to reduce mechanical downtime.
Interesting. I'll move on to my next topic, which is about augmented reality and virtual reality, AR and VR. I'll put a question to you, Ashwin. How is AR assisting in warehouse picking, especially in large retail settings? You have worked with Amazon and Target. Have you worked with AR in warehouse picking and packing in these companies?
Yeah, I have experience researching AR and VR. Now, this is one of those technologies that's probably created a lot of stir and excitement. But in my opinion, the adoption has not tracked the excitement of AR and VR devices. So it's primarily used to understand if we can take those recommendations from AR and VR devices and make your work maybe more efficient or in a safe manner, right? One of the ways we looked at using VR technology is, let's say you're creating a completely new, radically different warehouse or facility. And you have these simulations, you got the designs, you run through all the different math, everything looks great. And now we actually want to implement it, right? But within a warehouse or even in a back room of a store or within a store also, there are a lot of these small nuances or nuance factors that we don't take into consideration when we actually design these warehouses, right? And it can only be seen or experienced when an operator actually goes to the system. And a lot of times you see that things are not designed right because there are some of those considerations that doesn't make its way into the design board. So you can actually put those into a VR capability and then have somebody actually go through this VR virtual reality module and kind of do a walkthrough of the facility and then understand how is this facility being designed, right? And how can I actually go about doing my operations? And that is one of those use cases we've looked at before, but again, adoption, I would say, has been slow for VR technologies. Now, coming to augmented reality, The best use case that we've looked at is an associate actually goes and picks a product. There is a lot of errors that comes into it because a lot of items look about the same, and there are a lot of counts that they actually miss, and those actually have a cost of operations when those errors happen. So AR can be used. Let's say you have a fiducial at the picking location, they can actually go and see what exactly they are picking, right? And can actually show the size of the product, the color of the product, and even the form factor. And they can actually just go and pick those from the modules. So those are some of the examples that AR and VR have been researched, but the adoption part, I would say, is still not as linear as the excitement that it's produced.
It was at one time, yes. Pranavan, do you have, would you be able to give us some insight into how VR is used for training personnel in warehouse management? Is there have you come across any use cases of VR being used in training personnel?
Absolutely. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is a video that I saw. I didn't personally see it, but a video I saw that's been used in Amazon to train people on how the pickup drops has to be accurately done based on the material that they see and how to parcel a material. So VR is a great tool for training people before they are actually deployed in a site. Because your scoring and other metrics can also be done on the platform itself rather than another person seeing whether the training has been done properly or not. So, and for a user also, for the guy who's getting trained, VR is an easy system to understand and do a task because they basically actually see and do things rather than just listening or just a document. So in training, it's being used heavily, and especially if you see warehousing, I would say, if you ask, is it heavily used in warehousing? I would say it is less. VR-based training is used heavily in, I would say, construction as well as, other risky jobs like mining and other industries. But in warehousing, in training, it's been used to a limited extent only because there are people found, or there are other softwares which is available in the market, which will be able to enable a person to package or segregate products in a better way. For example, by showing live on a screen, hey, if you see the material, you can put it into this bucket. So rather than a VR, a simple on-screen display is garnering more interest because it's cost effective too. Because the VR headsets, you need to keep changing the sponges and the headset every time for every few set of users. So those kind of costs are involved. So for that reason, few industries are adopting simple screen-based training. But in visualizing the warehouse material movement and planning coupled with digital twin, there is an extensive research going on the field of VR to be used in warehouses, specifically for optimized material movement and optimized usage of the place, the warehouse. Again, it all boils down to, again, the same factor, cost per shipment, to optimize cost.
My next topic is actually something that you would be more familiar with, which is something right up your street. It's all about autonomous vehicles and drones and logistics. In fact, we've just had one of our attendees also raise a question on this. So I'll just put this question to you. What are the biggest challenges in deploying autonomous vehicles for logistics? What do you think are the biggest challenges? And are there any specific regulatory or technical hurdles that we have when we deploy autonomous vehicles?
You're asking specifically to warehouses, right?
Yes, to warehouses, yes.
Yeah, see, regulatory, of course, again, it depends country to country. European regulations are totally different from US as well as in India. Drones has its own set of regulatory problems that would face in a warehouse. For example, while people are working around a drone scanning, it's not allowed currently in Europe. But in US, that is allowed, provided your drone's weight category is under these many particular kilos. The regulatory norms are pretty tight at this point of time because It is an emerging technology. So like every emerging technology, when it comes to market, it goes through its own trashing and bashing by the regulators. So it'll take some more time for regulators to understand the scenario and write down regulations in and around these kind of technology.
What about organizational challenges? Do you see organizational challenges in employing autonomous vehicles or drones? Do you see any problem when it comes to warehouses or logistics operations?
Organizations are ready to adopt this, provided the costing works. See, today, for not just for autonomous vehicle, but for any technology to get adopted, the industry is going to see on a P&L how much it's going to save or what efficiency it's going to bring. So, right from purchasing a piece of software or simple tissue, like, is it necessary? Is it going to, how is it going to affect the P&L? So industries are keen about, and especially 3PL and warehousing industry, since the margins are really thin, they are very keen about understanding what are the unit economics efficiency this is going to bring, or the robotic system is going to bring. And the moment they see it, the adoption will be extremely high. But this also gets coupled up with a real world edge case scenario that robots are facing in real world warehouses where it is deployed in a place where a human was working. If a warehouse is designed for robotic system from the scratch, a robotic system will be working without any trouble. But the moment we deploy a robot in a warehouse which is designed and where humans were working, it becomes a little bit of tough story for the autonomous system to work efficiently and reliably, I would say. So
this is something you mentioned actually earlier.
Exactly. So there is some gray area in that place, I would say. But industries are ready to adopt, owing to the primary fact that 3PL industry especially are finding it really hard to hire people to move the materials throughout the day, because usually 3PL industry works through on all three shifts. And the work is pretty strenuous. You need to keep moving pallets throughout the day. So for those reasons, industries are looking for autonomous solution, but the price factor should work.
Yeah, I suppose for where productivity is a big concern, it will help because they'll work throughout the night or whatever without any issue.
Exactly. See,
Shifts.
productivity can brought by even deploying few extra robots on the field. So, but the end factor is if you look into the entire spectrum, the final decision making comes to the pricing point efficiency, because they have their client or the end consumer is are looking for great cost saving or price predictability. So for that reason, 3PL industries are forced to maintain a cost factor within limits. So the robotic system that they're deploying should ensure the industry is able to maintain the pricing of the cost per shipment within that price range, I would say. And if that is met, industries are ready to accept.
Can I put Naveen? Since you're working with DHL, what is your perspective on drones and autonomous vehicles for last mile delivery? Have you come across any incidents, and I mean any occasions where drones and autonomous vehicles have been used for last mile delivery? How do you see it happening?
Yeah, so obviously when it comes to drone, right, obviously Amazon is very key because they have already started doing a lot of prototypes. They have been going into this for quite a while now, right? But in terms of the primary use cases that we're talking about, number one is drone deliveries, right? Now DHL has a very interesting perspective on this. DHL believes that there will be growth in niche use cases. What we are referring to here is that, let's take the example of large private compounds. I mean, it could include a warehouse, right? And then let's assume critical things like medical goods which have to be sent to rural areas, right? Now, while DHL feels that it is less likely to really proliferate in urban areas, there is a scope for these niche areas, especially the rural areas. So where we cannot reach immediately, where there is a problem in terms of reach, right? And also in cases where we have these large private compounds, so that it can be used within there, right? The second most important thing is security, right? So obviously logistics means there is a lot of security also involved, right? So wherever human vision is limited, right? So drones can really play a huge part. And the third most important thing, and something that I had a personal chance to witness because my cousin is involved in one of these projects, is inspection of large assets. right? So my cousin had a government contract wherein they started using robots for inspecting the progress of these metro, the bridges that they were constructing for metro, right? So what they used to do was they had developed this laser-based systems and they deployed it on drones. So the drones would go up and then they would inspect it horizontally, vertically, whichever angles you want. And then they will start identifying these cracks in these girders that they put in for these metro bridges. Right, and of late, right, a lot of these things are being used for these checks on aircrafts, right? So the drone goes around the aircrafts, identifying if there is any major fault that needs to be addressed before takeoff. Right? And something that I wanted to add, a lot of technology developments have happened over the last few years. Most important being Panasonic is working on solid state batteries. These are next gen. They most likely, they are expected to replace the lithium ion batteries. There are also some lot of research going on in terms of using hydrogen fuel cells as well, right? And then there's this company called Saberwing. They recently they had a record wherein they were able to lift 376 kgs almost worth of weight, right? Another big subfield is that there is the swarm intelligence going on, right? While we have seen a lot of these swarm drones for displays, right? What is also important is that they're all now working towards a common goal. For example, if you want to lift a heavy weight, right, multiple drones can work together to ensure that these weights are lifted.
Great, thanks so much. My next question is on cloud computing, and I leave it open to the panel, in all of you. How have cloud-based platforms changed, supply chain management, especially in terms of scalability and data integration? Would you like to add something, Naveen? Cloud-based platforms in terms of scalability and data integration in supply chain management?
Yeah. Whenever I talk about the scalability, right, I always tell my viewers one thing, right? So very early on in my career, I got this eureka moment where I understood the difference between horizontal scaling and vertical scaling and horizontal scaling, right? Now, traditionally, we used to have these giant monolithic systems, right? The big systems, these IBM mainframes and all that, which were quite heavy and had to be placed in one place, right? Scaling that was very, very tough. Then came cloud, right? So what used to happen was they used to pick up these small systems, combine multiple of them, create a data center. And the important thing was multiple parallel data processing became a reality, right? So this is very, very useful, especially when you consider things like IoT, big data, all that data coming back, right? Coming into the system, it has to be processed quickly in real time. So what do? You need to create these clusters of computers which can do a lot of work for you. And the best option is to have these on cloud. And integrations also are have really benefited because of applications moving into the cloud platforms.
Ashwin, you have anything? Would you like to add something on this?
Pradeep, I think from a cloud computing standpoint, it is the future, right? I mean, I think we've actually once we actually gone to the cloud computing, there is no going back. And I think the key point here is modularity. It actually gives you the right modularity to actually scale your systems. Because before, you actually had this one, like Naveen said, monolithic system. And then that going to cloud computing gives you more flexibility, adaptability, and modularity. I mean, I think that is the biggest driving factors of why companies are actually moving towards cloud computing.
Thanks. Pranav, do you see any challenges in integrating cloud computing with automation technologies in warehouses?
Few software comes with its own notorious way of integration system, I would say. It's really hard to integrate. And we can't blame them because there are many security protocols that the end consumer expects for. And when it comes to industries like 3PL, the data has to be pretty secure. And for those reasons, these softwares are heavily scrutinized. And any integration with these kind of software, for example, we have been trying to integrate with the SAP system. And we are successfully integrated, but the path for that wasn't easy. There isn't enough resources much out there, and there's a limited support from the industry, and people are finding their way out for integrating, but it isn't as easy as we see. But again, as I mentioned, we can't blame, because the security protocols and certain since it has got sensitive data. These softwares are designed in such a way that it's really hard to talk to each other and work to each other. But I would say once cloud has come, it is a bit eased off, because when we talk about cloud, it is all about collaborating with other platforms and other systems, I would say. So the entire mindset around building cloud-based software has provided a pathway for new systems to get integrated easily, I would say. On that aspect, I'm talking about the overall space. I mean, it's talking about 40,000 feet high. The cloud-based system has really driven industries to adopt new technologies and allow new systems to talk to each other also. I'm comparing with a timeline where every software and these kind of applications used to run on the site, on the server that is placed within the particular site or industry, I would say. So cloud has enabled that. And today, the transparency is much more. A person sitting on a German headquarters or a UK headquarters can easily manage the asset or view the asset everywhere across the globe easily with much more accuracy. So on those fields, there is a great pluses over there. But if you ask how it is easy or hard to integrate with these systems, connectivity with the automation, there are many hurdles out there. But there are new tools coming up which helps handle these hurdles, I would say. There are new and many tools coming into the market for easy integration. I think there are a few startups from Y Combinator also recently came that enables two industrial piece of software or application to talk each other without any trouble. So I think with these new tools in the field, deployments and integrations of new systems into existing systems will be much more faster. See, all these things are prevailing only on existing or a built warehouse or a system, I would say. When it comes to a new industry, for example, there is a new industry coming and a new warehouse is being built. They are building things in compliance with these new applications. But when we are talking about a running system, it is still a hurdle, I would say.
Great. Thanks, Amit. My last topic, and we'll go into Q&A from our attendees if there are any, is basically on a topic that we are all aware of. It's about organizational preparedness. I would like all three of you to put in your your comments on this. Is how do you see companies? What should they focus on in terms of organizational preparedness? Should it be workforce training? Should be process design, or should be cultural shifts, so that they can implement these new technologies into the supply chain and logistics? Where do you think companies should start? I mean, is it workforce training? Is it process redesign? Is it cultural shifts? I mean, I think there are challenges everywhere. Go ahead, Naveen.
Probably I would start with digital literacy first upfront, Pradeep. And I think I'm really qualified to talk on this because we have been implementing scanning solutions, using OCR, for reading content from documents, right? The fundamental challenge is that you go to a team, right, who are doing manual work as part of the back office operations day in and day out, and then you go to them and tell, guys, let's introduce a new digital system, right? It'll make your jobs easier, blah, blah, blah. We give all that fund out, right? And then that guy goes in, logs in, and then there is a very small error that appears on the screen, right? Now, this guy has absolutely no clue on what needs to be done, right? And which is one of the reasons why I started with the word accuracy. An 80% accuracy for us is wonderful. But for a guy who's doing something, right, 80% accuracy just doesn't sell for that person. And human beings are very strange species, right? As long as human beings are doing something, they are absolutely fine with the buffer for errors are quite high. But you give that to a system, they expect that 100% accuracy has to be done each and every time, right? So it's very important that you make people digitally literate. So what I've done is now for all the projects that I'm heading, right, I do it the opposite way. I start with the training first. I ensure that the team is trained. The people who are going to use the products are trained. And then we go and develop and design and do whatever from a solution perspective. Second most important thing is I had this great opportunity to meet a vice president from Citibank, right? So she was one of my colleagues when I attended the one-year course at IIT Madras for advanced data science, right? She made this very interesting comment. She said, Naveen, leadership mindset needs to be different for artificial intelligence projects. You need to have leaders who know when to stop. Because trust me, artificial intelligence projects never stop. There's no end date at all, right? There's always improvement. People think that there will be one fine day when everything will be working and we will reach 100% accuracy, which never happens. So you need to have leaders who know when to start a project. Is it possible to start a project? Once you start, go full-fledged, and then if something is not working, say stop.
Interesting. Ashwin, would you like to add something here?
Yeah, I'll kind of give you a story. Back in 2013, I was working at Amazon warehouse, and I think that's when Jeff Bezos went on 60 Minutes show and announced that they are creating these drones, right? I mean, so the reason I'm actually telling the story is because in my experience, what I've seen is that a lot of these technologies gets adopted if there is a strong top-down approach in leadership side of things. Bottoms-up approach is okay. I think there is a lot of research that actually goes into bottoms-up approach, but in order to actually gain traction for adoption, and in order to actually get that push behind those capital investments, leadership needs to be completely be in the buy-in mode for these technologies. Otherwise, none of these things will actually get adopted. And so the reason where I see these things not getting adopted is because leadership is not on board with the engineers or the scientists who's actually adopting these.
So something similar to what Naveen said. He said the same thing about leadership being having the buy-in. Pranavan, what about you? I mean, any challenges? Purpose.
To add a point here, the purpose is really needed. See, is there a strong purpose behind it? Is it only the drone can solve the problem? Is there any other simple solution that can solve this issue?
No, we're not talking only of drones. Any of these, technologies.
I'm talking generally. I'm picked up drone as an example, but any technology. See, when it comes to a working industry, that's very important. Like this, any technology to penetrate the market, or any of these kind of robotics and latest solution to enter the market, it needs a strong need in the field. Else, the industries are happy with what they have, because no one wants to change a working. See, if the wheel is running, just leave it as such. Why do we want to go in middle with it? So when it is not a need, then it's good to have. Basically, people don't have much intentions to adopt it, because power of intention plays so well here. Only if there's a very high intention to adopt and strive for betterment, the adoption will happen, or that the need will come and enforce organization to adopt it. Else, there is no adoption in the market, I would say. So again, it again boils down to the first point, initial, the same point that I mentioned initially. So when there is a great requirement in the market, robotic system or these kind of new technology will enter in the market. Else, people will stick to the existing working model that they do have.
Great.
And also wanted to point out here, Pradeep, you mentioned workforce training, right? I would take a step back and say, before workforce training, there has to be a workforce awareness. You need to actually let the people know why are these things being even considered for adoption, right? I mean, I think a lot of people actually think about autonomous technologies as something that would actually steal their jobs, right? Lack of better words. I mean, that is what goes around in the warehouses when you actually suddenly adopt something. And there is a mentality where you need to actually make sure that we don't give that perception to those workers, right? I mean, and that is, I think that's a very key important point where you have to make them aware of why we are actually implementing this, and then training goes along with that. Once they accept the solution, only then you can train them. Otherwise, it's always going to be a friction between how you actually train those workers and then how they will react to that training.
Pradeep, sorry,
go ahead.
one point, just taking off from what Ashwin said, right? So there's this constant argument that I have with my leadership team, right? Say, I always tell them, too much of thing is being made about the what and how, right? Rarely do we have leaders coming forward and say, why are we doing this, right? That is not at all being addressed. It's always the what and the how, right? I think there needs to be a cultural shift in terms of why any new initiative, right? Why are we doing this? Once that is answered, right, automatically the what and how will fall into place.
It always begins with the why.
Yeah. And that always seems to be the last one.
Yeah, that's what Simon Sinek said. It always begins with the why. Yeah, we will just go with the question and answers. We have a few questions that our readers, that our attendees have put forward. One which Babu from Cocos Renewables had put up about, something that you had mentioned, Naveen, about, machine learning and, shipping errors. There still seem to be a couple of days off. I mean, you had mentioned about the ship and, getting the ETA and stuff like that, but there still seem to be some couple of days off. My colleague Naveen had mentioned that it is still in the rollout. So would you have something to add to that?
I told you, right? Accuracy. 2 days of accuracy is phenomenal with respect to artificial intelligence systems.
Like Naveen Kolatu said, probably it's somewhere down the line. In a couple of years, we should be more accurate.
No, I wish. I mean, yeah, it's going to be better, but are we going to really break the 2-day barrier? I mean, we can break it in some cases, right? But I don't think we can really predict whether this is exactly going to come and land on this port at this point, because I don't think we have while a lot of developments have gone into the areas of IoT and all, we have still not reached that point where we are able to predict, especially things like weather, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that. You can't say.
Absolutely. And there are too many other factors. For example, human emotions is something that can never be predicted. If a captain on the ship is having a mental breakdown.
Piracy.
Absolutely, right? Where can we get the data on when is the pirate going to attack? Right? So I think 2 days is phenomenal. I think we should be more than satisfied and happy with that.
Satish Bandaru has put in a question: how can drones transform technology in the supply chain management? Would you like to take that, Pranavan? Drones and supply chain management technology. How can drones transform? Where all can drones be applied? Apart from last mile delivery, like Naveen was mentioning earlier, inside the warehouse. You had mentioned there were some restrictions and stuff like that.
Restrictions, but see, many companies, for example, again, there was a YC startup which I met during my US visit. They are producing, they're manufacturing drones which can do nightly scans. Again, after the work hours, they do nightly scans for inventory accuracy. If the bin is properly, if it is properly placed, if the safety is on, if the material is still intact in that particular location, put away location. So basically for inventory reconfirmation, I would say. Drones are being used.
We had talked about this when we were talking about digital twins. Do you have the drones which go and check if everything is there?
Yes, exactly. Because in large warehouses where they store in these level wise, they go up to 8-9 levels, and checking these inventory with human is really tough because it increases risk, and the accidents are prone to happen in these areas. So here, there are companies like Dexery who has a land-based robot which sends cameras to the top through a retractable pillar kind of thing and scans the inventory one. And the other solutions are based on drones. But drones comes with its own drawbacks too. Its dynamics, its flying dynamics drastically change when it flies between aisles, and it flies with narrow aisles. The dynamics are really hard. It is really hard to navigate the drone precisely between really narrow aisles, I would say. And when the material is there, it works differently. And when the material or the particular shelf is not filled, the airflow is different there and the drone behaves differently. So there are some hurdles there, but many startups are addressing this. Another company called Viman Robotics, it's a US-based company. They are also providing drone-based inventory management and tracking solutions for warehouses. So if you ask, are drones being used? Yes, but again, adoption is a question. People are it's still in the testing phase, I would say. It hasn't gone to stage where AMRs are currently in. AMRs, there are some decent adoptions in the AMR market, but drones are still in nascent stage, I would say.
Vishnu
I would say,
Manohar has a question. Yeah, go ahead, please.
I would say the drones being used commercially for delivery, I'm going to equate that to a full self-driving capability for a Tesla or some other car, right? I mean, I think there is going to be some time before we actually see that being commercially utilized for day-to-day activities is how I would actually think about it. Because there was an excellent point made in the GFS 2024 summit here in Dubai, that somebody actually mentioned that, time at which a person starts to drive is about 15, 16 years of age. They can actually learn a car. And it took us about, even now it's not there, 10 years for a machine to do a self-driving, right? I mean, eventually we are not there. So it's not as easy, like you say, where machines can actually just do these things seamlessly and flawlessly. It will take its own time because the infrastructure has to be fundamentally changed for some of these things to actually work, especially the drone delivery would be an example of that.
But I think the pace of development has been phenomenal. So I think we can look forward to it sometime in the near future, if not too distant future.
Yes.
Vishnu Manohar has a question which probably you could take, Ashwin. It's about what would be the maximum dimensions and weights we can handle with the help of AI and robotics presently in India. Would you know about that? Maybe Pranavan would have some clue on this.
Yeah, Pranav might have a better idea of that.
Maximum dimensions and weights we can handle with AI and robotics presently in India. I mean, do we have robots which can handle big size packages and very heavy loads, or is there other restrictions?
Yeah, of course, yes. See, for specific industries, there are some robots. For example, recently we visited one of GE's renewable energy system. I mean, they produce large windmills, blades, and stuff. So they have been using AMRs to transport these built windmill blades from one location to other location for the next reinforcement or carbon fiber reinforcement painting purposes. So AMRs are there for these are specialty functions. Usually companies go for custom building these equipment. There is no standard equipment available in the market, but they work with specific robotics industry to build customized solution for their need. So for your question, is there AMRs which can carry large materials? The answer is yes. And you would have seen in ports, there are AMR forklifts which can completely move these containers as such. So the answer is yes.
Yeah.
But again, use cases is left here.
Yeah, and they're not, I mean, if you're talking about containers, those are really heavy and big in size and very, very
exactly.
high,
Very
heavy
few industries are testing or adopting it slowly, but again, there's no mass adoption of those systems. Today, AMRs, like pallet moving AMRs, are being accepted in the market. And after that, I would say the smaller package movement, like what Gray Orange is doing and other companies doing, the smaller package movement robot. I think recently Hikvision also came to the market. They're giving robots at a very competitive pricing. So those robots are adopted at this point of time. Because these robots are easy to test also. You don't need to worry about the safety. The moment you go for a larger robot, the safety norms behind it, the safety certification that you need to attain are really huge. And hence, the use cases are pretty limited at this point of time.
If you can see the question, there's a question which might be right up your street. Again, why competitive autonomous vehicles are not built in India, and which is directly affecting ROI. What are the views and how to overcome? This is brought by Amritalingam.
Competitive autonomous vehicles. See, the pricing will come down with more research work involved, and over time, when few of the key systems for robotic navigation comes large scale, the prices will drastically come down. So at that point of time, the prices will obviously come down. But today, the robotics industry as such is niche. It is still a growing market. It is not a full-fledged grown market. So I would say competitive pricing is tough at this point of time, but industries are working. For example, we have our primary system, our primary goal is to create mass operating system for mass market automation, I would say. So we are cutting cost drastically by heavily relying on camera systems rather than costly or sophisticated lidars. We use lidars for safety, but our entire navigation works on camera system, which is again we are providing at a competitive pricing in the market. So like this, many other companies are working on reducing cost. And these robotic components are also coming down on the pricing. And again, this also is driven by the adoption. The more the number of robots that is getting deployed in the market, the pricing will come down. So this competitive autonomous vehicle building in India is happening right as we talk, but is not fully ready yet, but it is happening. And why is it which is directly affecting the revenue? What is the views and how to overcome? Again, this will be overcome only with scale. When the market is really niche, and companies are adopting by just one or two quantities, the pricing won't come down. Once the technology is proven and once the industry has started adopting, the pricing will drastically come down. So we have to wait till that.
Thanks. Swali has a question. Maybe Ashwin, Naveen, one of you could answer that. This is about robotics and drone deliveries in quick commerce market and their warehouses. Would you like to take that? Maybe Ashwin, Naveen, would you have anything to add on that?
I mean, if we were talking about drone deliveries and then even shrinking that delivery times to, even right now we're getting it in 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
I mean, shrinking it down to sub 10 minutes, I think that's a very aspirational goal. And for the drones to actually do that, because like I said, like the infrastructure has to be fundamentally changed to actually do that. So I don't know. I mean, like we might actually see a day where we might have our pizzas and burgers delivered using drones. I mean, it is happening.
I think somebody has tried it. Yes.
Yes.
Domino's or somebody has tried it.
Yeah, Domino's actually tried that. I mean, just 1 week back, I was actually pleasantly viewing this article, or actually viewing this video about Air Orca, a company that actually is doing drone delivery system, and military has adopted it. I've not actually read too much into it, but then there is some delivery things happening in a specialized level. Like I said, on a commodity level, we are yet to actually see how that actually will roll out.
A point to add.
Go ahead.
The drone deliveries, if you look into the commercial market, drone delivery on public residential areas, it is, see the tech. If you ask if the technology is there, the answer is yes, the technology is there. But the point is the regulatory norms in and around it is a key thing. For example, how will you handle these internet cables and cable TV connections that's passing between the lighting poles, and where will you land?
Difficult in India.
Exactly.
Difficult in India.
So the regulations and practical difficulty due to the environment is tough today, but the technology is ready. See, today drones are able to fly straight for 45 minutes, and 5 minutes flight time can be charged in less than half an hour because the battery technology is there and the drone technology is there. But the actual hurdle comes on the regulatory norms, I would say.
Yeah. What about robotics in their warehouses? Quick commerce market, I don't think their warehouses, the dark warehouses are actually, would they be suitable for robotics?
See, within robotics, I would say you can either look at P2G solutions, which is persons to goods solutions, or a goods to person solution, right? I mean, at any time when you're designing a warehouse or you're trying to transitioning a warehouse from manual operations to automated, you have to first figure out what system you actually want to use. Is it a P2G or a G2P, right? And based on that, we need to say what autonomous solution will be the best option going forward. There are a lot of solutions that are being deployed in warehouses across the US 3PL facilities and RDCs and FCs. It's not a one size fits all solution, because if you look at your SKU velocity, you have A, AAA, AA SKUs, which are like your ultra prime SKUs that actually you pick those SKUs very often within a day, and then you have those B and C SKU velocities that are once every week. You have to figure out where are you going to actually use these automation for. Are you going to use that for your AA SKUs, or are you going to use that for your slow moving inventory items? And I think you might see that you might have a string of solutions that you have to use and marry up to eventually make your solution warehouse work in the most efficient manner. So it might not be just one solution in a warehouse. It might be a combination of solutions, including manual picking, that can give you the best output.
Sure, thanks. Ajit PS has raised his hand. So Ajit PS, would you like to talk? You can go ahead. Ajit PS, you have raised your hand. Would you like to ask a question? No. Well, anyway, I think we have answered all the questions that were raised earlier. We're coming to the end of the webinar. I would like to thank you, our panelists, Naveen Shiv Shankar, Ashwin Mohan, Pranavan. Thank you. Thanks to all three of you for your great participation in this webinar. Some wonderful insights we have had, and it's been a great learning personally, and I'm sure for all the attendees who are here. And I would also like to thank all the attendees who have joined us today. Thank you all for joining us on this webinar. And we'll look forward to more such. You can look forward to more such webinars from us from our driver logistics knowledge series. We will keep you posted till then. Thank you so much. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Pradeep. Thanks to you and Driver Logistics for hosting this wonderful event. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure meeting you all here.
Pleasure, likewise.
So much pleasure, Ashwin and Naveen, meeting you both. Thank you so much.
Likewise, same here for now. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thanks, Pradeep, for moderating the event. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks. Great.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.